Andrew Berry met with the media today, talked about how the Browns view the draft and its impact on the 53-man roster.
It's always full of surprises, and it's really the same thing with players, right? I don't think any of us anticipated going to the season and we would be down, 3 tackles, Nick Chubb and Deshaun Watson for most of the year. That we would lose, Grant Delpit and Juan Thornhill and Rodney Cloud, late in the season. So in terms of spots on the 53 or who's going to play what, it all looks good in May until adversity hits or something unexpected happens, whether it's injury or performance. Probably more generally, as we think of the current roster relative to the draft has always been about long-term investment in the roster. We don't think of it as, I talked earlier on how rare it is for a player to come in immediately and play at a starting caliber level. We really look at it with, okay, how are these players going to impact, call it the 25 to 27, Cleveland Browns, and if they develop quickly and produce with impact in their rookie season, that's great. We're not going to, DeJuan Jones did that. We're not going to keep them off the field, but we really do look at it as in terms of a long-term investment in the team.
Let's welcome in Mac Robinson from 92.3 The Fan. So when you're looking at the draft, don't look at necessarily the starters. Look at that too deep and look at some of the guys that are a little bit older in that second group.
Yeah, Dave, you're spot on there because, whenever I'm looking at the draft for the Browns, I'm not necessarily thinking of, okay, who's going to come in and immediately play. This isn't the same old Browns that we saw in, the late teens and even in the 2000s as well, where, you would have somebody that gets drafted in day one has to make an impact in rounds 1, 2, 3, and potentially 4. Now at this point, it's, your top 2 draft picks last year were Cedric Tillman and Siaki Ika. And while Tillman got a lot of plays, he didn't make as big of an impact, say, as DeJuan Jones or even their undrafted free agent, Ronnie Hickman, as well. Both of those guys made a massive impact. Hickman was an undrafted free agent. DeJuan Jones fell to day 3 because of other concerns that he had. So, for this draft, and especially drafts going forward, it's not only just the day 1 impact of what a player could potentially do, but also looking at down the road, how do these guys impact the rest of this roster? And also, how do you have some unforeseen things that might shake things up? One, for instance, I know Andrew Berry spoke about today too, was the special teams rules and the new kickoffs, and where, we're going away from maybe that super speedy return man versus somebody who's, more adept to contact. And so now you might see a shift in terms of those players, towards the back end of the roster. That's another area that you need to look out for. And now, especially with this draft class and, with all the different running backs and different receivers, all of a sudden now that's another wrinkle that you have to throw into the mix as well when you're evaluating the entire 53-man roster and how they look at this draft.